Hi everyone. Welcome to the episode number 8 of Ahead of the Game with Monty. Today, the subject is why. So this channel is focused on web3 games, and we'll talk about games, traditional games, on and off, but I want to focus on Web3 game for now, for a few episodes. Okay, so I'm going to start the episode by quoting from Albert Einstein. There's actually no proof, no evidence that Albert Einstein said it, but there it goes. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. You must have heard this. I'll repeat it. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. Why am I using this quote? Well, I feel like that's what's happening with GameFi. From the previous episodes, you can tell that I'm not a big fan of GameFi because I believe many of them are Ponzi's. These games are not fun, and they took the good name of video games and they monetize it. And there are people who lost their money. And the way they do it is Ponzi. You can argue with me all you want. You're not gonna change my mind. Okay, so why do I use that quote? The definition of insanity is that model doesn't work. That model doesn't last. So why do people start new projects using the same model? I've seen proposals for VCs, for investments. They use many pages on tokenomics, but they don't explain why do people want to play this game. So this episode is all about why. It's very important in game industry why a game can justify its existence. When I was at EA from 1991 to 1994, there was an internal document at Electronic Arts. It was called YEA. Simply put, the document, I believe it was one page, maybe later, before I left, it was 2 pages. But it's a document that, a lot of us game developers, we all think we're very creative, right? So we have new ideas. Oh, why don't we do this with that, with dinosaurs and robots and aliens? Well, put it down, right? Put it down. Don't just say it. Put it down. And explain to EA, explain to us, why should EA fund this project? Why should EA spend money and people and time to develop this game? So, so you used to be WHYYEA, and later it became the letter Y, EA. But you know what I mean, what it stands for. So it's basically what EA is trying to understand. Why should they fund a certain project? This can be an external project, it could be an internal project. But somehow, 30 some years later, we have the same situation again. And like I said in episode number 6 about fake videos, we went through that in game industry in the late 90s. So when I wrote a post on LinkedIn, a lot of the older veterans, even more senior than me, they're like, what? It's, they feel like the more they change, the more the things stay the same. We have learned that lesson in the 90s, and now people are falling for the same traps again. So yeah, you can tell that in game industry, we do not believe in videos. We need to make sure this is game footage and no edit. And we actually want to play it. Show me the game. Let me play the game. So that's where it comes from. And all right, so why? Why should we invest in this game? I went to a blockchain games website. On the top, it says staking. I'm like, stake what? Where's the game? I come to this webpage to play a game, or at least to watch a game, to watch a video of a game. Staking. Stake what? and mining. So I'm not against staking and mining. It's, don't take me wrong. It's not that I don't understand what these financial features are for, but this is supposed to be a game, right? So can we at least pretend these functions are part of the game? Can we at least try to fit the staking into the game's universe? Every game has its own ethos and mythos. And, so if it's a farming game, maybe I'm lending my money to the farmer, right? So, he can generate some yields and, at least let's follow the script, the storyline of the game. Mining is the same thing. And it's not that hard. I could just spend 5 minutes and come up with an idea, but most people don't do that because you know why? I don't think they've worked on video. I don't think they have developed video games before. Now, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not I don't name names and I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm saying if we're going to call these apps games, then they need to act like, look like, walk like games, shouldn't they? So, okay, let's start. Why? Why should the project get funded? The first one is, I want to ask is it more fun than traditional games? Is it more fun? Does it have better graphics? Does it have better graphics than existing games right now? And if it doesn't, okay, well, is it on consoles and mobile devices, or is it only on browser? And if it's not on consoles and mobile devices or handheld devices like Switch, you're not addressing the 5.2 billion gamer demographic in the world because they're not on browsers. The blockchain game demographic is about 200,000 people. So to say that we want to address the gamer market, the real gamers market, well, are you on gamers' consoles? Are you on their platforms? And now that iOS is saying that they're gonna take 30% from NFT, and a lot of projects are like, oh no, we've been paying that since 2010. The entire game industry has been paying 30% since 2010. You can complain about reality. There's a lot of things wrong with this reality that we live in. But are you going to bend reality? Are you going to abandon the 5.2 billion people market? Well, take it out of your business plan, would you? Don't say one thing and do something else. If you say you're going to address the 5 billion gamer demographic, be on consoles, be on mobile phone, and pay the 30% commission. All right. And what is this deal about launching the tokens before the game is made? How can people invest in your game before they see what your game looks like or play like? How do they know? I had a funny conversation with a friend of mine. He's building an awesome game, but man, he's draining his life savings doing it with his own money. And guess what? This is a very, very common story in game industry. If you truly believe in what your passion is, put your money where your mouth is, or put your money where your heart is, instead of taking other people's money. In fact, I told that friend of mine, I said, well, how much money do you think your game is going to make? $15 million? $20 million? Okay, I'll give you that money right now with INO. We pre-sell the NFT. You don't have to build the game. You just, take some game items and do some art, and we'll do an INO for you. And here's your $20 million. Now tell me, what is your motivation for finishing the game? Making game is hard. You do all this work. We do this for a living too. We love what we do, but we also do this for a living. And there are a lot of risks involved. Your computers can crash and the hard drives can get destroyed somehow. So if you have the money, what is your motivation for finishing the game? So it used to be you put in the efforts, you take out the risks, and then you may get the reward at the end of the tunnel. And now you get the reward first. The whole thing just feels wrong. or at least we need better rules, because right now the rules is tempting people to become bad actors. I think some of the people in the GameFi space, they probably had good intentions initially, but it's tough. You put the end goal here right now. Why do people want to go do the hard work? It's hard and it's weird, to be honest with you. You know, call me old school. I'm obviously old school, but I just want to say, you know, I like fair launch. I like launching the NFT after the game is released. I like to see the game. Now, there is a place for raising the capital so that we can make the game. Of course, some developers go to VC, venture capital firms, and raise money too. I've done that too. But that's that, you know? You write a business plan, you're held accountable for the money that you get from VCs, from investors. But there's not a lot of accountabilities, you know, in the way that we're launching tokens these days, or pre-sale NFTs. You know, what's the guarantee that the game will launch, and what's the guarantee that NFT will play well on the game? There is no guarantee. So we're taking a leap of faith on people who we don't know. It's tough, you know. You guys are very trusting. That's all I have to say. You guys are super trusting, super nice, and if you're not careful, you're going to get taken advantage of. All right. Okay. So what's the remedy here? You know, at least the people who are doing this project, have they done it before? Have they done a game from beginning to the end by themselves in the past? That's not too much to ask. You know, track record. Have you done it before? If you have, there's a good chance that you can finish this one. But if you have never done it before and you want to take my money to try and learn, you know, not my money, you know, maybe your money, but not my money. So those are good questions to ask. And actually, I really think most of the projects should volunteer that information. Don't just say, oh, I worked at Sony, I worked at Sega, I worked at Sony, you know, whatever, Google, Amazon, Apple. No, exactly what did you do there? Did you build games there? What's the games? What are the games that you released, you personally released? And which part did you do on those projects? You know, not testers or, you know, some marketing guy. Be specific. So track record. Have they built games before? What exactly did he do on what games? All right, next one. I talked about INO. Not a big fan. I'm not a big fan to pre-sell NFTs. I think that that's a ticking time bomb, and a lot of them are going to explode soon because too many projects are taking too long to finish, and they become slow rockle. So yeah, I wouldn't invest in, you know, NFT pre-sales. And again, you guys are brave. You know, you're not risk averse. You're taking a lot of risks on something that you don't really know very well. All right. Okay, let's change to potentially solution. I want to talk about, before we finish this episode, I want to talk about what games are suitable for blockchain, for Web3. And this is actually quite a deep conversation. I've been thinking about this question since February of this year. I'm very new in this industry. I'm very new. And that's why I have a kind of a naive and outsider perspective. So the first one on the top of my list is MMORPG, massive multiplayer online role-playing games, or some people call it MMOG. But back in the early 2000s, there's MMO, many things. There's MMORTS, MMORPG, MMO, FPS. So there are a lot of different MMOs. But you know, if you say MMOG, we pretty much understand you're referring to MMORPG. So I don't have to get into it too much. You know, World of Warcraft. I played a lot of EverQuest. That's in the late 90s. And there are a lot of MMORPGs, Guild War. So I believe those are the best. Because why? Because there's usually a lot of players in the game. They spend, in general, 2 to 4 hours per day in the game. They spend a lot of time grinding for the experiences and for the items. So those items are very valuable to them. And here I want to talk about a concept. So if you're in the Web3 game business, take your note out. You want to write this down. Why do I think Ponzi's are Ponzi's and this is not Ponzi? It's because when you're doing meaningless shit, like walking on the street and the company is willing to give you money, token, that's Ponzi, because the value is artificially given to your effort. But in the MMOG example that I'm using, let's just say you grind and you got a sword. That sword cost you 3 days, 15 hours. That's a lot of value to you. And I think it's also equal, similar value to other players, and maybe more. If they don't want to spend the 15 hours just to get that sword, they may be willing to give you 15 bucks, 30 bucks for that sword. So the economy is between players. So you believe your item is worth this much, and then there's another person who's in agreement with you, and he'll give you money for it. Where does the blockchain comes in? It's underneath. It's the plumbing. Who cares what chain? Who cares what protocol and the gas fee? Someone will take care of it. There are free ones, there's fast ones, there's slow ones, there's secure ones. We are content makers, so don't waste too much time arguing this infrastructure better than that infrastructure. Look, when you're driving on highways, do you talk about the pavement, the texture of the road, the texture of the pavement? You know, if it's raining, no, you just drive on highway and you deal with it. I'm a game maker, and that's the attitude I intend to keep. I think that the age of competing for technology in blockchain is winding down. You know, if you're a VC, you're still investing in infrastructure, that's good for you. Someone needs to do that. But I'm focusing on making entertainment content on blockchain. So blockchain will be used so that it's secure and it's decentralized. So no one can get in between two players trading. And we talked about a lot of different commerce that can happen between the players. But I want to point out, in MMORPGs, your items are more valuable to you because you need it. And you spend a lot of time and your feelings, emotions in it. And that's why it's worth something to you. And I've spent $1,000 buying some cloak from someone else on eBay in '99, and I almost got cheated. And yeah, so it was good that eBay got my money back, or PayPal. It's one of them. So we need this service. This is providing a very meaningful service that it's been existing. This need has been existing in game industry for easily over 20 years. So it's not a new need, but it's the first time I think we have a chance to address this need with a reliable, robust technology. All right. After MMORPG, I would just say RPG. So MMO implies hundreds of people, if not thousands of people on one server that can see each other. Maybe not all on the same screen, but you know, you could have a smaller scale RPG. It is still RPG, so they're pretty close. The next one, I would say simulation games, like farming simulation, mining simulation. Idle games, it's in the same category. And these are the games that you put your workers to work. So either they farm or they harvest or they mine and they refine the minerals and into, other better items, and you make that, sell that for money, and you grow your farm, you build your buildings, or maybe you are developing a civilization. Yeah, if you're a gamer, you know what I'm talking about. Those games are not bad. They're pretty good because you also spend a lot of time. Idle games is a little different. Idle games, you don't just stay there and do stuff all the time. You actually open the game and do a few things, and then you leave. And then in a few hours you come back. So the thing about idle game is the number of play sessions per day is more, but the session length is less. That's the difference. And the last category I want to get into is, I'm going to say esports. And I had a tough time on this one for a while. I used to think skill-based games and blockchain is not a good mix, because the good players will always win and they'll take all the money. The ones before, like MMOG, a lot of it is skills and also time. Like if I'm willing to invest a lot of time in it, then I can get good items and I'll sell it for money. By the way, that's very healthy. A lot of the third world countries have been doing this for ages without blockchain. So this model is proven. If you want to play to earn, this is a good model. And it's been around for over 20 years. Let's come back to esports. Esports implies it's skill-based. So in video games, the competitions sometimes is chance-based, sometimes is skill-based. And if you get too much chance in deciding who wins and not enough skills, then it's more like gambling. And when you have more skills in it, in some cases it's 100% skills. So I think a lot of esports is this way. Then you could potentially fight for a prize, right? So it costs money to enter the competition, and the winner takes it all, or the top 3 winner takes them all. And I guess there's the people who are into this, they're more competitive. So, I play games to kill time. I play games for my amusement and enjoyment. I don't want adrenaline rush when I'm playing video games. I like my dopamine, serotonin, mostly dopamine, for my video game experience. But some people want this adrenaline rush, testosterone, territorial. So esports, I smelt it a few months back. I started seeing blockchain companies investing in fighting games, wrestling games, racing games, or battle arena type games. And these are skill-based. And some of you who are not gamers, you guys are more like, I guess, crypto enthusiasts. I think you may not be a professional player with these games, but you could bet. I'm not saying gambling. I'm not against gambling. It's your money. But there's a market for this, and it's growing, and then it shrunk back, and it's growing, and it dies down, and then it's growing again, and it doesn't look like it's going away. So I think the need is there. The real need is there. There's a market for esports, for skill-based games. And I would also say not all skill-based games are esports, because esports, they more or less require very minimum of chance involved in determining who's winning. But I think in a lot of games, skill and chance can coexist. And skills is not necessarily only motoring skills. Motoring skill meaning hand-eye coordination. The strategy that you have in playing video games, it can be important in some games. So I just want to clarify, strategy is part of the skills. obviously hand-eye coordination is important too, but that's just the execution. That's not the brains. So I would look out for skill-based games, but that's just a new development. MMOG, MMORPG is still, I think, the holy grail in this type of games. And I haven't seen one. I mean, you could argue the Mir 4 from We Made is like that. I guess there's nothing wrong with that, with saying that. So, you know, this is a new market. We're all learning. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying, knowing that it's bad and do it on purpose, that's not cool. So if this is the first time you're watching my channel, you just gotta know I call it what it is, and it's my bias. I've been in video game industry for 36 years, so I think I know video games. I'm still learning, and I will not talk about anything outside of games because I don't necessarily know them. I will talk about metaverse just because metaverse is 90% video games. You know, talk to some other so-called experts, and they'll explain to you. You're using the same graphic engines. You're using the same similar interface. You're using similar technology. You're even going after the same experience. So, and in fact, in the movie Ready Player One, Oasis is a place to play games. So obviously, it's a place to social as well. But primarily, people going to have fun. In fact, you take the games out. Do you think people want to go in and look like business people and to have business meetings? You don't need that. I mean, Zoom is already doing that. Why do I want to put a VR helmet on just to have a video conference? Okay, maybe some people like that, but no, I'm more for efficiency. And yeah, anyway, we'll talk about metaverse much later. Let me know what you think about this episode. Leave your comments. Like the video if you do like the video. I'm just trying to share my point of view, and love to hear from you. Ciao.